Teeny Titans Go figure, the second installment in the Teeny Titans franchise that completely breaks through the common belief of sequels usually being worse than the original. As in this game, instead of being stuck in Jump City, you get to go meet Batman in Gotham alongside Superman in Metropolis, even being able to enter the Hall of Justice and the Watchtower in space. But the most beautiful thing about the sequel is how it maintains the same concepts of collecting and battling from the original while expanding upon them by adding tons of new figures to collect and various creative tournaments to compete in. So today my goal is to 100% it, collecting all 102 figures, conquering every tournament, and lastly defeat my arch enemy Slade in order to save Teeny Titans and become a master. And you'll see exactly what that last statement means throughout the video. Oh, and quickly, about 88% of people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed, so if you end up enjoying the video, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Okay, that's enough yapping. Let's begin. The game starts off with a cutscene showing us our battle from the very first game that we had at the end against Hooded Hood, and is portrayed very dramatically to start off, but then in normal Teen Titans Go fashion, it transitions to them doing the Teeny Titans battle on their devices, and this actually puts us in a battle as well, spawning in a Robin figure, a Raven figure, and a Cyborg figure. And this here was the tutorial showing us how the battles go, which for now I'll just mention the simple and relevant things. Like if you look at the bottom left, you'll see these huge green numbers that turn yellow and go down when Hooded Hood does an attack, and those numbers represent the individual health of the figures on our team. Another important thing is that if you look at the bottom, you'll see these 3 different circles at 3 different points on a bar, and each of those 3 are a different move / attack that your figure has. And switching out to Cyborg, you'll see that he has 3 different ones from Robin. Also, there's much more strategy that goes into the battles, which I'll explain a little later on, because if it's your first time seeing the game, it can be a little overwhelming. But transitioning back into the cutscene, we see Robin hysterically laughing at the Hooded Hood, and then there's a very confusing time skip of a year or 2 later, where Robin has seemed completely forgotten by the Teen Titans at first, but then Cyborg reminds them of what they were, and also shows them they're about to be discontinued, which then Robin takes the opportunity to gloat his championship win, but is completely interrupted by Beast Boy because of this.
I love those little guys, but I sold them to buy all my fidgets. They're so hot right now.
Which really reminds you that this game came out 8 years ago, but more importantly, Cyborg also says this.
Says here there's brand new Teeny Titans figs in stores. Today, the last line they'll ever produce.
And not wanting to miss the opportunity, the Titans go to the store again. But this time, before heading straight to the store, we have to make a very important decision, and that's which character of the 5 we want to play as. And for me personally, it was either between Robin or Starfire, because I thought that she might have some funny voice lines. But for some reason, it only felt right to choose Robin again, which after choosing him, we jump into Jump City, and you'll see this time that the angle of the game is a little bit different from the first one. And I think that was basically so that the game didn't feel the exact same. Oh, and again, I apologize for the resolution since this is just how the game was made, but I promise you do get used to it. And entering the toy store, once again given a tutorial on how to look through the store, swiping through all of the different figures. And this time, if you look very up top, you'll see our goal was to find a figure named Radical Robin, which after some swiping, we found him in the bottom left, making Radical Robin the very first figure added to our collection. And after obtaining the figure, we exit the store, running into Beast Boy, initiating our first real battle in the game. And our opponent, of course, since it was Beast Boy, he had Radical Beast Boy. And this battle here is probably one of the more straightforward ones in the entire game, since we have 1 figure each and there really isn't much choice. So I'll take the chance to explain a couple more things, one of which, when I attacked there, you'll see a random tofu appeared, and after collecting the tofu, I got a random power up. And that's basically what tofu are, random power ups that can heavily affect the outcome of a battle. But more importantly, looking back at the battle, if you look at the bottom and the top, you'll see a green and red bar, and you'll see that bar increasing over time, and the thing is named the battle bar, and it's basically the energy you use to perform your moves. Another important thing is the leveling system, which you just saw my Radical Robin level up from that battle, and basically every time you level up, you get to choose a different stat that you want to increase. There are some specific levels that don't give you a stat increase and instead give you something else like a new move, and those levels are level 3, which give you your final move, level 5, which unlocks Silky and mod chips, and lastly level 10 allows you to move around your moves. The chances are you have no idea what that means, but I will explain that later on. And getting back to Robin's and Beast Boy's conversation, Robin says he's again addicted to Teeny Titans after winning that battle. And this was when we were tasked with our very first story mission, which was finding another toy store. And using the magnifying glass on the top right, which is basically a zoom out of the map, we pinned a marker and headed our way over to the toy store, which after getting there, we were asked to choose our next figure. And I looked through all of them, looking at their different stats and moves, a lot of which I couldn't even afford. But to be honest, I knew it was a simple choice between two of the figures, either Robin or Cyborg. The basic Robin figure literally happens to be one of the best ones in the entire game. You could even argue that it's the best one. And Cyborg, though it's not the best, it has some supportive moves that are very good in battle. Though ultimately, since we already had a Robin variation on our team, and in the first game, the basic Robin was our first figure, I ended up choosing Cyborg as the second figure added to my collection. Not the very best choice, but still a very good one. And leaving the store, we run into a disguised man hiding in a bush. And Robin mentions that he looked familiar, but the disguised man quickly diverts his attention by asking Robin if he knows the true reason that Teeny Titans are going out of business. And Robin didn't know, as he thought everyone loved Teeny Titans, which then the disguised man tells us that it's from a copyright infringement lawsuit from the Justice League, which Robin refused to believe and said that he'd get to the bottom of it, mentioning he could go see Batman in Gotham or hit up Superman in Metropolis. And just like that, the disguised man wished us luck and the real mainline story missions had started, at first giving us an option to travel to Gotham or Metropolis. But before we started to head over there, we actually still had a lot of Jump City to explore, so that's what I first did. Traveling downwards, I ran into Zan, and you'll see that he has this purple / pinkish star above him, and these stars are the indicator of a side quest, which there's a ton of throughout this entire game, and they're pretty basic, so for the most part, you won't be seeing me mention all of them, but I will try to mention the cool ones. If we travel east of Jump City, we'll make it to the beach, which you probably remember from the first game. It's basically the same exact thing, just in a different angle. There's also this suspicious big purple building with a guard in front of it, but that's a later angle. And since there's so many different areas we can travel to in this game, we're also provided with the space cabbie, and this takes us between Metropolis, Gotham, the Watchtower, and Jump City. We also ran into the Tooth Fairy, and this is probably one of the more disturbing side quests. And again, you'll see what this is later on as well. If you run to the middle of Jump City, you'll make it to a park that has this big board in it, and here you can accept daily missions. If you're farther in the game and you already know everything, they're usually not too difficult, but since I just started, I literally had no idea who Gale was, as it says in the mission, but I accepted it anyways, hoping that I could meet this Gale person in the next 24 hours and claim my 900 coins. You can also find Sticky Joe in a random corner, and there was a side mission in finding him, which allowed me to get Sticky Joe as my third figure. But after leaving Sticky Joe and making it towards the left of him, you'll run into the Riddler and his mystery shop. But before going into the shop, I talked to Riddler since he had a side quest for me. The side quest ended up just being entering his shop, which rewarded me with a Riddler egg. And this was a new feature in this game, which gave you 4 different things, ranging from these rainbow coins named repaint tokens, normal coins, and figures, which I got Catwoman this time, making her the 4th figure added to my collection. And I'll explain what the repaint tokens do at some point as well. But more importantly, since I was playing on an emulator, the Riddler's egg shop actually didn't work for me, which made me a little worried, as I thought that there might have been an exclusive figure in there that's only available in the Riddler shop, but I did end up figuring out that that's not the case and there's no exclusive figure in the shop. And before I explain more about the shop, since we just gotten that Catwoman and it was already level 5, it meant that she already had Silky unlocked. And Silky basically allows you to power up your moves by sacrificing your other figures to the one figure. And you'll see that the bar filled up a little bit just there, and if it were to fill up fully, it would enhance the first move of Catwoman. And then there's also the mod chip section that she had unlocked, and mod chips are basically these small power-ups that give you a little boost within battle. And for now, again, I'm just giving the simple explanations, but throughout the game, I'll start explaining the important moves that I powered up and the important mod chips that I add to my characters. But for now, out of these 4 characters, the only one that was really any good was Cyborg, so I didn't plan on boosting any of them in any way until I got better characters. But getting back to explaining what the Riddler shop exactly was, it's basically somewhere you can spend real money in order to get the mystery eggs. So it's like a bit of a pay-to-win shop, but there was also daily / weekly rewards in it that could have been very helpful and saved me a lot of time in this run. But sadly, since that didn't work for me, I had to do everything the normal way, which I think is a good thing since it helps me experience the game. But there actually was 2 glitches that I ended up finding and using towards the end of the game. They ended up being pretty cool and game breaking, which I know I've said this a lot of times already, but you'll see that later on as well. But exploring a little more, we ran into this guy named the Rainbow Raider, and this is actually where you get to use those repaint tokens that we got from the egg. And simply put, they're just a way to repaint your figures into a different color, which is pretty cool, and I do end up repainting some of my figures later on. And for now, I repainted my Catwoman from a purplish to a full black, as it seemed more fitting, and then I also repainted my Radical Robin into this greenish blue color. But now it was time to start progressing through the story. And just as I was about to go to Metropolis, if you look at the bottom right, you'll see that my thing started flashing green, meaning I'd gotten a message from someone, and this specific someone was the brain who happens to be living in that purple suspicious building, and the message was a birthday party invitation, which we'll check out later because for now I wanted to go to Metropolis. But when I tried to enter, another problem occurred where Robin told me that I should at least have 5 figures before going there. So I made my way over to the shop, buying the cheapest one I could, adding Vixen to my collection as my 5th figure, and now I could finally head over to Metropolis and go see Superman. And entering, we're given the story mission of visiting the Hall of Justice, where we'd assume that Superman would most likely be. But of course, before we made it all the way over there was still exploring to do and side missions to accept, which I ran into different heroes like Zatanna and this Martian person who I'm unfamiliar with. But most importantly, I ran into Lex Luthor's shop, which had some pretty cool figs like Supergirl, Jessica Cruz, 80s Beast Boy, Killer Moth, Red Arrow, Swamp Thing, Super Silky who cost 2,500 coins, Jinx, and lastly Terra. And from these, as I was looking through the moves, Jessica Cruz seemed like a pretty good one, so I added her to the cart. But then as I didn't have too much money left, I also added a mystery box, meaning we'd added Jessica Cruz to the collection as our 6th figure, but very surprisingly this mystery box gave me that 2,500 cost Super Silky, making it my 7th figure. But in this game, although there are figures that are a lot rarer and cost a lot more, it usually doesn't mean that they're better. Like the Super Silky, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of mid, so I didn't add it to my team. But now I'd also done enough exploring, so it's time to put my marker on the Hall of Justice and make my way over there. And after we made it to the front door, we got into this conversation with the robot who calls Robin a citizen, and Robin tries to explain to it that he's not a citizen, but the robot ignores him and tells him that to enter the Hall of Justice, you must carry out a good deed. And Robin says although that's his bread and butter, there's no time for that. So then we were tasked to sneak into the Hall of Justice, which running upwards, there's coincidentally this hole dug out. But then out of that hole popped out the Easter Bunny, and he wouldn't let us through because earlier that day he'd lost some of his eggs, which he wanted our help in finding him. And being completely freaked out by his face, Robin agreed to help find him. So now we had to collect 6 Easter eggs for the Easter Bunny, which the first one I found right around the corner. But then I made a pit stop at Bizarro Comics, which was now located in Metropolis and originally was in Jump City in the first game. And from here I purchased one mystery box that ended up being Clark Kent, the 8th figure in my collection. And though this is a version of Superman, it's actually not that rare and one of the cheapest figures in the game, so you won't be seeing me use them. But more importantly, we made it to the middle park of Metropolis where I saw an egg sitting on top of this tree, but it didn't seem like I could get up there. But then we ran into Jon Stewart, and from him we found out that this is where Hawkgirl hosts her fig tournaments, and he was about to go up there to go see her with flowers. And in order to help us get up there, he actually constructed us a trampoline. Oh, and also gave us a pretty important item, which was the Green Lantern battery. And this Green Lantern battery is an accessory. It's one of the newer things that was added into the game, which was basically another power-up that you could use within the battle to help you. The Green Lantern battery basically just boosts your battle bar speed a little bit, giving you random bursts of energy, which does seem a little bit overpowered, but there is a little catch to it. And more importantly, we actually entered Hawkgirl's tournament, and this was when I first equipped the accessory, and also I equipped my 3 non-main figs as I wanted to keep my main ones for the later battles. And what I mean by that is that within the tournaments, if your figs take damage, the damage carries over to the next battle. So if you end up losing a fig, you can't use it for the rest of the tournament, meaning you want to save your best figs for the final battles. But since the opponent only had 1 fig, we were able to win pretty easily. But entering the next battle against Dove is when I realized that using that accessory in the first battle was a mistake, because when I went to go pick it for this battle, it was actually grayed out, and there was a message saying that each accessory can only be used once per tournament. So that was also another strategic thing you had to worry about throughout the tournaments. And Dove was also a bit of a problematic opponent who took down my Clark Kent and then also my Catwoman, leaving it to my Vixen against her Jessica Cruz. But thankfully, using Jessica Cruz, the CPUs are usually pretty bad, so it's very easy to defeat her, and eventually we ended up winning. And there's only 2 more battles left. But this next battle up against Supergirl changed a lot, because one, I brought in my main team, so I thought that I was good in winning this battle, but she on her team had Radical Raven, Super Silky, and of course Supergirl. And at first I used Cyborg's battery power, which takes some of my health and converts it into battle bar energy, allowing me to in a way attack faster than the opponent can. And using this over and over again, I was able to take out Radical Raven pretty easily. And then Supergirl sent in Super Silky, who I was pretty confident against since I knew it was a pretty bad character. And eventually after a couple of attacks, I took down Super Silky as well, making it a 1v3 against Supergirl and my 3 figs, which at this point it seems like a pretty easy win for me. But then Supergirl kept on using this move that lets her fly into the air, the same as my Jessica Cruz. And when a character is flying up in the air, they're invulnerable to single character attacks. And I say single character attacks because Supergirl had this multi-character attack, and even if my Jessica Cruz is flying, she could still hit her, meaning that my flight didn't really matter at some points. Oh, and if you quickly look at the bottom, you'll see the the game giving me a little tutorial on blue abilities, and blue abilities are basically the opposite of purple abilities. If you remember from the first game, purple abilities are like a charge up attack, the same one as Supergirl's final attack that hits all three of my characters, and when a charge up attack is happening, if we happen to attack her before it fully charges, it completely uses her energy and the move doesn't happen. But if it is able to charge up, it ends up being a pretty powerful attack. And the blue abilities are almost the same thing. Basically, when you use one, the battle bar energy slowly starts going down and your character continuously does damage to the opponent. But if it's interrupted by an opponent's attack, you lose your energy. And I can actually better show you what that is when I end up using Jessica Cruz's attack at a different point. As for now, this battle had gotten way too dangerous with my Robin at 4 health and Cyborg at 8 while the Supergirl still had 11 health. And somehow I hadn't noticed that Supergirl started using her charge up attack, which could have easily been countered by my own attack, but since I didn't see it, both of my characters ended up getting defeated. And even though we still had Vixen alive, if you end up losing a battle completely, you lose the tournament. And I'm not gonna lie, that battle showed me that Supergirl was pretty overpowered in this game, and she would definitely need to be added to the team later on. But for now, I decided to explore more, trying to find all the other eggs and level up my characters along the way, which I found the second Easter egg in this bush at the bottom. I also randomly ran into Cyborg, whose side mission for us was defeating him with one figure, which would be a little tough, so I'd come back to him later. But for now, I found the third Easter egg on a random sidewalk. The fourth one was on the side of this building by some trash cans. And lastly, the fifth one was probably the most difficult. And if you look on top of this bridge, you'll see it just sitting there glowing. So collecting it, we had now 5 in our collection, and that last one would be from the tournament. But like I mentioned, we needed Supergirl on our team since I'd seen just how good she was. So entering the shop, I put her into my cart, making her the 9th figure added to my collection. And as I was still running around, fighting, and leveling up my characters, I eventually went back into Bizarro Comics with 2,000 coins and saw that they had a blue Beetle figure in there. And though this is one of the best characters in the game, I decided not to get it since I kind of overused them in the last game. So instead I ended up going with 2 mystery boxes, with the first one giving me Bumblebee as my 10th figure and the second one giving me George Washington as my 11th figure. But then randomly there was a 25% off on all figs inside of Bizarro Comics, so I made my way back in, this time buying 80s Robin as my 12th figure, 80s Cyborg as my 13th figure, and 80s Starfire as my 14th figure. Afterwards, continuing to battle, collecting more coins, and leveling up my figures. But at some point I decided I wanted to visit back Jump City, and then something weird happened where the entire screen started shaking when I went back, which at first seemed like an earthquake, but then our camera zoomed out and started panning over to the far left where we saw this huge spherical building coming out of the water, and conveying a message on a large speaker. It said, "Citizens of Jump City, the Legion of Doom has arrived." But they said not to be scared as they've changed their ways and no longer seek world domination, and instead they were here to bring us an online figure battling competition, which does sound pretty cool. And Robin at first said that sounded too good to be true, so we immediately made our way over there to check it out. And entering it, it asked us to choose a name for ourselves, so I chose the King of Titans 11 as there wasn't many options. And Bizarro, who's in there, tells us that that's a bad name, and since Bizarro talks in opposite, Robin assumed that he meant that it was a good name, but then Bizarro told him that the boss told him to talk normal for this part, so he did believe that our name sucked. But afterwards we got to this screen where we had the options of battling online, battling nearby, friends list, and battle CPU. And since this game is technically off the market, we can't use the top 3, but we are still able to use the battle CPU, which is very important because if you look at the bottom, you'll see that we're rank 1, and battling the CPU we can rank up, and we need to get up to rank 50 to get an exclusive figure that's only available in here, but we'll tackle that later on as it's a huge grind. And for now, I made my way back over to Metropolis and challenged Hawkgirl once again, decimating the first and second battle a lot easier, finally facing off against Supergirl once again. Oh, and I'd also gotten a second accessory, so of course I equipped that and headed straight into battle. And I should explain how the accessories exactly work. And if you look at the bottom left, right above where my Catwoman figure's face is, you'll see the accessory there with the percentage charge. And over time, that charge slowly goes up, but there is other ways to make that charge go faster, one of which is just using your moves. And then secondly, you'll randomly see these batteries appear on your battle bar, and if you let your battle bar energy charge up to that point, you get an extra 20% charge if you collect the battery. And then when that percentage gets to 100, you can activate your accessory. And the accessory that we brought in this time just gives our characters more health, and it is probably one of the worst ones in the game, but it is better than nothing. Though more importantly, I should mention Supergirl and what makes her a pretty overpowered character, and it's basically the combination of that fly attack and that laser attack you just saw. Basically, you can just keep spamming that fly attack over and over again, almost indefinitely being in the air, meaning that nearly every attack that the opponents use won't hit you. But what's even better about the flying is that it combos extremely well with the Supergirl's charge attack, because like I mentioned, mentioned, if you get hit while your attack is charging up, your attack ends up just getting cancelled. But since you're flying, the other opponent can't hit you and you can charge up at that same time, meaning you're always guaranteed to hit your charge attack. And you can just keep spamming this over and over again, just constantly being in the air and spamming your charge attack, meaning the opponent can't hit you and you constantly just dwindle down their health. Like for example, in this entire battle, the only time I lost health was when the accessory went away, meaning the opponents didn't hit me one time and I soloed their entire team just using Supergirl. And the only real downside to this strategy is that it just makes the battles longer. But either way, my Supergirl leveled up and I gave her a power stat point. Before the final battle, we got a Tofu, which allowed us to heal one of our teammates 20 health. And the obvious choice here was Cyborg, as he was really low and one of my best characters, and it meant that I could use him in the final battle against Hawkgirl, who seemed very excited to see us, and we told her that we needed her help, but she insisted on having a battle before anything else. So we jumped right in, and if you look at the very top, her team consisted of Radical Starfire and of course Hawkgirl. You'll also notice towards the bottom left that I'd saved my Green Lantern accessory for this battle specifically, and that's because the Green Lantern battery makes the Supergirl strategy that much better, as it allows you to do your attacks much faster. And using a couple of the powered up attacks, we took down Hawkgirl, in return getting the trophy, the Easter egg, and the Hawkgirl figure for winning the tournament, meaning is the 15th figure we'd collected, meaning it's now time to make it back to the Easter Bunny, which turned really weird because after giving it the eggs, it wanted us to eat them. So one by one, we ate the eggs that were laying on the ground in order to satisfy the Easter Bunny, which is a little freaky, but we gotta do what we gotta do. And with that, we're finally able to make it into the Hall of Justice, where we ran into Gale. And if you remember, Gale was that one person that was in that daily mission. And after talking to her, she gave us Superman's underpants, another accessory. And this one specifically, I don't really ever use. But now we had to explore the Hall of Justice and find Superman. But first, we ran into Jaina and told her that her brother Zan misses her, but she said she couldn't go back yet as she was hanging with the big dogs at the Hall of Justice. So instead, she asked us to give him this Wonder Woman poster, and that would placate him for a while. A whole lot of freaky stuff going on. But anyways, afterwards, I made it into the store and then saw that one of the vending machines was shiny, and clicking on it, I got a random mystery box, which gave me Lady Legacy, the 16th character in my collection, and in my opinion, one of the strongest figs, if not the strongest fig in the entire game. And I'll explain exactly why later on. But for now, there's another shiny vending machine, and after clicking on it, I got a repaint for Jessica Cruz. And then there was also an entire shop named Super Friends, and it had a pretty huge variety of figures. So for now, I was just looking through and didn't buy any figures, but instead I bought the Super Stunner mod chip, which makes it so your opponent starts the battle with your character stunned. And then I also bought the Mother Box accessory, and while this accessory is active, it deals damage to your opponents every few seconds. And that can combo also pretty well with Supergirl, because while she's in the air, you can constantly just deal damage to the opponent in a different way. And the Super Stunner mod chip I added to Jessica Cruz, and at this point I don't really know why I thought that Jessica Cruz was so good, but later on I do find out that she kind of sucks and end up replacing her with a different fig. And as I exited the shop, I'd actually forgotten to collect the reward for finding Jaina, which gave me 200 coins and the Wonder Twins fig, making it the 17th one in my collection. But as I made it deeper into the Hall of Justice, I ran into the Flash, who very strangely says gotta go fast, which I'm pretty sure is Sonic's line, but he just gave us a simple side quest, and I made my way farther into the Hall of Justice, where we ran into this weird room, and stepping onto this pedestal, it teleported me up to the Watchtower, where we see Green Arrow and just run past him. But making it farther into another door, we see Red Tornado with a side quest for us, and he wanted us to beat him using 3 cute figs. But more importantly, we run into Martian Manhunter, where he says behind these doors lies his private Martian collection, and to enter we first have to prove our worth. And at first, proving our worth was just competing and defeating his tournament, which when I entered and started my battle against Aquaman, seeing at the top that his figs were nearly max level, I decided that I was not ready for this tournament and just backed out immediately. And since we still hadn't found Superman, I went back into the Hall of Justice, where at the very far end I ran into Wonder Woman. And as we're about to ask her about Superman, she says to think fast, immediately engaging in a fig battle. And her figs were the Flash, Jon Stewart, and Wonder Woman. And though they were much higher level, I still thought that I had a chance at winning using my Supergirl. But this battle showed me that my Supergirl strategy wasn't a guaranteed win, because if you remember a while back, I mentioned that the flying move can't be hit by single target attacks, but if the opponent happens to have an attack that hits the entire team, the flying does nothing. Well, that's exactly what completely destroyed me, as Flash used his multi-target attack and just decimated my entire team's health. So I knew I was going to have to train my figs a little more if I wanted to beat Wonder Woman, but I still hadn't found Superman. So I kept looking all over, even talking to Green Arrow, but again, no luck. So instead, I decided to give up for now, just leveling up my figs and using the space cabbie to travel over to Jump City, where I ran back into Zan again, giving him that Wonder Woman poster, which did make him happy. And for it, we got 500 coins and a repaint of of the Wonder Twins. Also, out of nowhere, a message appeared at the bottom that the Zinthos shop was giving away a free fig. So I made my way over there, and entering it, I got a mystery box that gave me Mother May I as my 18th fig. And while I was in the Zinthos shop, I decided to buy a mystery box that gave me Jinx as my 19th figure, and then I also bought an accessory named Raven Spellbook. And this one's pretty good because it slows down your opponent's battle bar a pretty decent amount for a very long time. But next up, I went back into Metropolis, doing some more side quests like taking down 3 Marthas, eventually making my way over to Lex Luthor's shop again, where I first bought Terra and actually gave it away to a mission that I had. But for some reason, even when you give it away to a mission, it counts it as being added to your collection. So Terra was my 20th figure, and since we had completed the mission, we ended up getting Artemis as a reward, making her the 21st figure in our collection. And still exploring, this time back in Jump City, I ran into this area which I hadn't seen before, where there was this gate attendant, and I thought that maybe I had to beat him in a battle for him to let me through. Though that wasn't really the case, but we did get our Supergirl to level 10, meaning we'd unlock the ability to customize our ability placement. And this basically just means we can put our move order in any order that we want. But the downside, of course, is if we move a move down, it deals less damage, and moving it up makes it deal more damage. So most of the time, the ability switching isn't really helpful, but if you remember, I mentioned a specific glitch, and the ability customization actually helps us a tremendous amount with it. And you'll see what I mean when we perform the glitch. But for now, I was upgrading my Supergirl's first move, which basically increased the duration the flight ability lasted, which was of course very helpful. My next step was upgrading Cyborg's battery ability, which now, alongside filling up the battle bar, also gives us bonus power. And while explaining more on the bottom, I got a message saying that one of the shops had new figures in it, so I quickly made my way over there to check them out, buying myself Dad Nightwing and giving it away to a mission, making it my 22nd figure. And this mystery box gave me Beast Boy, making it my 23rd figure, and this last mystery box gave me Moss and Menace, making it my 24th figure. I'd also around this point started adding Lady Legacy to my battles to level her up because I realized that she had some pretty good moves, but before I could properly utilize them, I'd have to level her up more as she was only level 4. And for Lady Legacy, you usually want to put her stat points in either power or health. And while I was at the beach, I realized that they had a shop specifically for mod chips. So one, I bought myself a regenerating mod chip, which basically passively over time regenerates your character, and I immediately put this onto Supergirl because let's say she takes damage, I can just kind of keep her up in the air and then have her heal over time. She was kind of just getting more and more broken by the second. Also, I stopped by this little girl in the park because she had a side mission, but more specifically, she also had gum, which we needed for a different side mission, and it was specifically for this dog person, which you might remember from the first game. And for completing the side quest, we got Black Lightning, making him the 25th character in our collection, meaning we're a quarter of the way done. And throughout playing, I'd randomly just start battling Mr. CPU and the Legion of Doom as well, because this was the part that I least wanted to do, as it was just a continuous grind of beating Mr. CPU over and over again. And for now, I got to rank 2, which gave me a mystery box, and out of the mystery box, I got Other May I, making her the 26th figure in our collection. And again, while exploring in Jump City, there was another 25% off in one of the shops, so I quickly made my way over there, and the shop this time was named Control Freak. And to make the most out of my money, I first selected Blue Beetle as he cost 2,000, but since there was a 25% off, he only cost 1,500, making him the 27th figure in our collection. And then I also bought Radical Silky and gave it to a mission, but again, of course, that counts as a figure for us, so that was the 28th. And randomly, while exploring Jump City, I came across the purple building again and remembered that the Brain had invited me to his birthday party, and this birthday party in question happened to be a tournament. So I quickly started the battles off with my first opponent being Brother Blood, and he can be annoying because one of his abilities deals damage to us and heals himself, but since of course we're usually just flying up in the air, he isn't able to hit us. And using this cool little move that Supergirl has where she super speed flies towards the opponent and punches him, we're able to take down Brother Blood, which got Supergirl to level 13. So we made a lot of progress in leveling up our characters. Our next opponent was General Immortus, and he had the weirder characters like Santa Claus and George Washington, which again we took down very easily. Our third opponent was Madame Rouge, and she had 3 characters consisting of Other May I, Rose Wilson, and Catwoman. And I of course just spammed my laser ability over and over again, eventually taking them down with 80s Robin's kicks. And you're gonna notice sometimes I just add random characters onto my roster, and that was mainly because 1, I was testing out how good they were, or 2, I needed them for a side quest, so I needed to level them up. But moving on, our fourth opponent was Painbot, and his team consisted of Cyborg's head, one of the Brother Blood variants, and also Black Lightning. I'm not gonna lie, my Jessica Cruz and my Lady Legacy kind of got dominated by these characters, but then my Supergirl came in very clutch, critting 2 of the attacks and taking 2 of them down at once, leaving only Black Lightning, who of course would just be easy at this point. But if you notice, we also had Raven's Spellbook in play, which makes his battle bar much slower, giving me a pretty insane advantage in this battle. And from that battle, my Jessica Cruz got to level 11 and Lady Legacy had gotten to level 8, so she was slowly slowly getting to that level where she'd be useful in battles. But now we had the final boss, the Brain himself, to go up against. And before we got into the battle, the Brain revealed to us that this was all a ruse in order to get Robin into his clutches. And he said that his devious plan worked, which Robin tried to act like he knew all along, but of course he didn't. So we initiated a battle. And the Brain only had 2 characters, but they were higher level, being Monster Mala and Radical Silky. And Monster Mala is actually pretty scary because he has this barrel that can hit all 3 of my opponents, and of course the flying doesn't work on that attack. And he'd actually slowly dwindled my Supergirl's health down a pretty significant amount, eventually leaving her only at 2 health, so I switched out to 80's Robin. But then of course he got low as well, so I kind of just went for the risky play, switching in my Supergirl again and just praying that he wouldn't use his barrel, which was going according to plan. And then I got pretty lucky because he switched out to Radical Silky, who didn't have any full team attacks, so I knew I was pretty safe going up against it. And this allowed me to take down Radical Silky and also get down Monster Mala to 8 health, which then I was able to use my normal punch attack and take him out. And this got my Cyborg to level 13 and Supergirl to level 14, also obtaining the trophy for this tournament and getting Monster Mala as the prize, making it the 29th character in our collection. And afterwards, as it hit nighttime, I decided to take another little stop at Zinthos, trying to get all the figures that I hadn't gotten from there, which first included Trigon, the second one was Poison Ivy, the third one was from a mystery box and it was Starfire the Terrible, and the fourth one was the most basic Robin, bringing our collection up to 33, meaning we're a third of the way there. I also took the moment to sacrifice some of my figs to Supergirl, getting her punch attack up, which added a stun effect on top of the damage. But now it was time to finally take down Wonder Woman. But before going directly to her, I actually took a stop at the shop, getting myself a mystery box that got me Blackfire, and then also a second mystery box that gave me Swamp Thing, bringing my collection up to 35. And then finally, I made my way over to Wonder Woman. Now, I haven't mentioned this, but this Wonder Woman battle was important because I'd assumed that this was where we'd get the information on Superman, since there wasn't anywhere else I was finding him. And this time the battle was on a much more even playing field. As first I used Cyborg's battery ability to give me more battle bar charge, and then I quickly switched over to Lady Legacy and spammed her power up ability, which basically just boosts the power of the next attack I use, and this applies to all characters on my team, so it doesn't specifically have to be Lady Legacy's attack. And then as my battle bar was depleted, I switched over to Cyborg again using his battery ability, which of course also gives us the energy but more power as well, and I continued spamming Lady Legacy's ability, finally switching over to Supergirl and using her laser vision, which dealt 24 damage to each character. And to be completely honest, our goal in this battle was taking down the Flash as soon as possible, because he's the only one on their team that has the ability to deal damage to all 3 of my characters at once, which of course counters Supergirl, but thankfully Wonder Woman and Jon Stewart don't have any of those abilities. But it seemed like she didn't want to switch over to the Flash, so instead I ended up just taking down Jon Stewart first, and now we had the Flash to deal with 22 health left. But then just as I was about to attack, she actually switched over to Wonder Woman, and you can see Raven's spellbook again putting in a lot of work as her battle bar was just so slow. And Wonder Woman's only damaging attack is that last one, so it takes her forever to get to it. And this was specifically good for us because it meant that my Supergirl's laser vision wouldn't get interrupted. But if you saw there, she activated her Superman undies, which saved Wonder Woman from taking any damage, as that's the ability of the Superman undies. It basically tanks 1 full attack for the character that's in play. So that ability, if you time it well, it can be pretty powerful, but then there's also situations where it gets wasted when the opponent just uses a very weak move. So that's why I prefer accessories like the Raven spellbook or the Green Lantern battery, because they're always useful in any situation. Oh, and using one more laser vision, Flash was taken down, basically meaning we'd won this battle as there's only Wonder Woman remaining, but you do still have to be cautious with her because her final attack deals an insane amount of damage, as she literally dealt 87 damage to my Cyborg. But using one more laser vision, she was also defeated herself, meaning we'd finally claimed victory over her, leveling up our Lady Legacy to level 11. But more importantly, she first apologized for spontaneously attacking us, and then we questioned her about Superman's whereabouts, which she responded with saying that she didn't know and that we should ask Batman as he keeps a tab on everyone. So we finally had our next storyline mission, which was traveling to Gotham. And wasting no time using the warp sewers, I made my way over there, finally entering Gotham, where we were first tasked to visit the Gotham City Police Department. But of course, we picked up a bunch of side quests like the Tofu Man, who always asks us to use tofu within battle. But more importantly, if you look at the bottom, you'll see this thing that says extract. And if you remember the Tooth Fairy, this was its side quest. And I'm not going to explain much, I'm just going to let y'all hear it. Yep, pretty crazy. And we did the exact same thing to Dr. Light as well. But then eventually I made it to the police department where I found Commissioner Gordon on the roof, first extracting his tooth and basically asking him the whereabouts of Batman. And basically he told us that whenever he needs him, he just uses the bat signal that was right in front of us. But sadly, the light in it got busted, so we couldn't use it anymore. And we need a new light bulb to use it again. So at first we made it over to Dr. Light, who we thought might be able to help us. But basically he said that he didn't carry around light bulbs even though his name was Dr. Light, similarly to how Robin doesn't carry around birds since his name is Robin. And then we initiated a battle with him, which was extremely easy compared to the battle we just done with Wonder Woman. And even though he couldn't give us a light bulb, he told us that maybe the Penguin could help us and that we need this hat to get into his place. So I put a marker there and headed straight over where we tried to talk to this little penguin, but he kept on saying walk, walk, walk. So we couldn't really understand him, but instead we kind of just walked right in. And this also happened to be another tournament with Benedict the Penguin as our first battle. And I quickly realized that this was one of the tournaments that we're supposed to do way earlier on, as the opponent only had a level 4 Moss and Minos, and I kind of just one-shotted him. Our next opponent was Icicle Jr. Again, another opponent who didn't really stand a chance. Our third opponent was Killer Frost, who had 3 characters, but again, they were all level 5, so they were quickly taken down using the laser vision. And our fourth battle was the Penguin himself. And basically, he said that Robin is the wrong type of bird, and Robin tells him to shut his beak, and the battle starts. And though he had some pretty cool characters like Killer Croc and the Penguin himself, they were again very low level, and again, I was able to basically just one-shot both of them, obtaining the Penguin trophy and unlocking the Penguin fig, bringing our collection up to 36. But most importantly, we still didn't have a light bulb. But then out of nowhere, Captain Cold appeared, telling us that he could actually help us. And then he made us a light bulb out of ice, which we took back to Commissioner Gordon. And when we tried to place it in, he told us that it only works at nighttime, so we'd have to wait for that. And if you look at the bottom right, you'll see that we're over a little halfway over the day. So I just stood here for like 2 minutes until it finally hit nighttime. But then when I tried to place it in again, it melted and Robin started crying. But then Commissioner Gordon told us not to fret because we could just go meet Batman at Wayne Manor, and he gave us the code to his gate. And Wayne Manor was on this little isolated area on the map. So first we placed a marker on it, eventually making it to the huge bridge leading over there and typing in the code I'm rich to access the gate. And entering the building, we first ran into Alfred, who told us that Master Bruce wasn't accepting any visitors today, but we kind of just ignored him, making our way around the house, where we first ran into Ace the Bat Hound, and for him we had a side quest of finding different snacks. But then eventually I went through this door and ran into a ring area where we once again saw Alfred, and this ring area happened to be another tournament, which is normally Master Bruce's training regimen, and all the opponents in this training are different types of Alfred, with the first one being Karate Alfred, who specialized in fighting characters. And at this point I was a little over leveled, so I took him down pretty easily, with the next opponent being Sumosu Alfred, who had 2 beastly characters and a tech character, again who I quickly destroyed, and Supergirl had made it to level 17. The third Alfred was the Beekeeper Alfred, who by his name you could probably tell had 2 different variants of Bumblebee. And in this fight I hadn't realized how many power-up moves the Bumblebees had used, so my Lady Legacy ended up getting one-shotted, but that wasn't too big of a deal as I one-shotted the Bumblebee back with my Cyborg's attack, and this allowed Lady Legacy to get up to level 13. Our fourth opponent was Alpha Red, who had a pretty cool character on his team, which was Batman Beyond, and seeing him in this battle, I actually wanted to add him to the team, but then I did end up searching online how good he was, and it turned out he was literally one of the worst characters in the entire game, so wanting to add him kind of stopped right then and there. And after defeating him, we'd finally made it to the last opponent, which was Coach Alfred, and he only had 1 fig on his team, which was a level 16 Alfred, who can be a little dangerous if your characters can't deal enough damage, as he has some pretty crazy healing abilities. But my figs dealt a pretty hefty amount of damage, and using a couple of laser visions with 1 lucky crit, we eventually took him down, awarding us with the Training Regiment trophy and also an Alfred fig, which was the 37th in our collection. And next up, I kept on exploring Wayne Manor, eventually making it into this bathroom area where we once again saw Alfred in the bath. But then there was also this thing shining under the toilet, so I clicked on it, which moved the toilet over a little bit, and going into the hole, it actually took us into the Batcave, where we first saw the Batmobile just sitting there, and then randomly I saw this glowing spot, so I clicked on it and I got a random mystery box, which out of I got Cat Beast Boy, bringing our collection up to 38. And afterwards I went up a little and ran into this cow with a bat cape on, and this was Bat Cow, who I didn't even know existed. But either way, we challenged it to a battle, and on its team it had Nightwing and Batgirl, both of which we decimated pretty easily using the combo of Lady Legacy's power move and Supergirl's laser vision. And then going up this tube, we eventually made it into Batman's room, where we saw that he was sick in bed, and basically we just word vomited everything at him about the copyright infringement and why the Justice League would do it. But then he just mumbled back at us, not really being able to speak. So Alfred said that he would translate for us, and basically Alfred told us that Batman was unaware of any copyright infringement lawsuit and that Teeny Titans are his jam, and there's no way he'd wished for them to go out of business. And then Alfred also talks about his sickness and how it was very peculiar that Batman had migraines and started falling sick, and they kind of just kept on mentioning how peculiar it was. And Robin mentions that that seems suspiciously significant, and honestly I have no idea why. So if anyone watching knows, let me know in the comments. But either way, we see Batman mumble again, and Alfred translates saying that he says to go meet Soups, which Robin gets angry at because we already tried to find him and we couldn't. But then Alfred says that he has good word that Master Clark was filming his latest superhero film in Jump City, and I immediately knew where this was. So wasting no time, I made my way over there, where out of nowhere Robin kind of just stops and says, "What's that sound?" And then another Robin appears out of thin air, basically saying that he was in a huge hurry and there was no time to chat, saying that he was from the future and he needs us to do exactly what he says. And basically he gives us a mysterious crystal and tells us to bury it somewhere in the park. But before I did that, I headed over to the gate attendant that we couldn't get past at first, but now we actually could get past, but with a bribe. And the gate attendant wanted any 10 figs. So I'd made my way over to the shop, buying the cheapest ones I could, even getting a mystery box that gave me Gizmo as my 39th fig, and then a second mystery box gave me Dr. Light, making him my 40th fig. There was also me purchasing Seymour, but giving it away to a mission, but that technically was my 41st fig. And then I just bought some cyborgs alongside the Just Gotta Dance mod chip, immediately placing it onto Lady Legacy as it is one of the best mod chips in the game. And what it does is it gives you a battle bar boost at the start of a fig battle, giving you a very big advantage. But either way, after getting my 10 figs, I went back to the gate attendant, and after he let me in, we were tasked to access the closed movie set. And the movie set in question was right here where we saw a sparkle, but it said we needed a crew pass to get inside. So we're just gonna have to explore a little bit. But I did also run into this movie magic shop, which isn't important yet, but it becomes very important later on because it contains these golden mystery boxes. And there's a bunch of characters in this game that are literally RNG, and you just have to open up the golden mystery boxes to get them. And this just happens to be the best shop to go to as it carries the most gold boxes. But again, that's for later on. So I left the shop first running into Shazam, who wanted an autograph from a celebrity. So we quickly got it for him from this fake Superman. And for doing that, we got 5 repaint tokens. So kind of useless. But also I ran into Booster Gold in this random area, and then he kind of just forced us to battle in his tournament, with our first opponent being Billy, who had a Clark Kent fig and a Shazam fig, but they couldn't really do anything as I was constantly just flying. And eventually I just took them both down. Our second opponent was the weird dog guy, who again wasn't too difficult, and we leveled up Lady Legacy to level 14. The third battle was against the annoying kid, and you probably remember him from the first game, and he had an 80s Robin fig and a radical Robin fig, who both got eviscerated. Our fourth battle was against a guy named Albert, and he had Dad Nightwing, the Flash, and Jon Stewart. And I'm not gonna lie, this Flash was much weaker than Wonder Woman's, as he barely dealt any damage, so even if he was able to get an attack off, it wasn't that threatening. And eventually I took him down as well using my laser vision, which finally led us to the final battle of the tournament, being Booster Gold. And on his team he had Blue Beetle, and of course Booster Gold himself, but my Lady Legacy Supergirl combo was still pretty decent, and I was able to take them both down pretty quickly, which got me the Booster Gold tournament trophy, the Booster Gold fig himself, bringing my collection up to 42. But most importantly, and I didn't even know this before doing the tournament, he ended up giving us the crew pass that we were looking for. So I quickly made my way over to the closed movie set, where we finally got to see Superman. And Robin mentions that he's been looking all over for him and that he needs to talk to him about Teeny Titans, which then Superman exclaims, "Teeny Titans? Oh man, I love Teeny Titans," which got Robin a little worried by the look on his face, because it kind of meant that he wasn't behind the lawsuit either. And this was confirmed when Superman says that he'd never do such an awful thing. And this got Robin a little irritated because he still hadn't found out who was behind the lawsuit. But then Superman mentions something about a new law office in Jump City and that we should go check it out for the details. So our next story mission was to learn the truth. And making my way quickly over to the law office, Robin knocked on it and the ground started shaking, leading us into a cutscene where the law office started to transform. And as it opened up at the top, we saw a very familiar face, and it was Slade. And basically Robin says that he was basically the culprit, which then Slade responds with a statement that should have been pretty obvious at this point. And Robin says that he's evil for wanting to shut down the Teeny Titans, which gets Slade excited. And then he says, you know what's even more evil? That it actually was the Justice League that filed the lawsuit, but that he made them do it with his mind control powers. And this made me realize that I didn't know a lot of the lore behind Teen Titans Go specifically, because the mind control powers I think are some sort of inside joke, since he technically doesn't have any, but I could just be completely wrong. And after a little bit of yapping, Slade finally explains his motives, and that at first he actually loved Teen Titans, but then one day he saw a child take his Justice League figs and beat up a Slade toy, and that he even made the Batman fig toot on the Slade toy. And apparently a code Slade lives by is that no one toots on Slade. So that was exactly when he started plotting against him, which leads us to the final mainline story tournament. And our first opponent is a Robo Secretary, who has a Joker and a Batman Beyond figure, both at level 20. And for this battle, I brought in Jessica Cruz, Supergirl, and Lady Legacy, and my main goal was basically to use Jessica Cruz as much as possible and try to take down both of the other figs using her. But of course, if that didn't go to plan, I had my other 2 overpowered figs to take control. And honestly, at first it was going pretty well until I got a little greedy and tried to use my middle blue power, which ended up getting my Jessica Cruz one-shotted. So then I just stuck to Supergirl, using using the same strategy of flying and using the laser vision, which if you might have noticed, both of mine and the opponent's battle bar are sped up, and that's because this battle had a special effect on it, and this permanent speed up of the battle bar made Supergirl just that much better. But there was a problem in the fact that Batman Beyond did have an attack that hits the entire team, and using it, he ended up getting my Supergirl down to 13 health and my Lady Legacy down to 35 health. But then thankfully, I got a lucky crit off and one-shotted the Batman Beyond. And then I got a tofu that allowed me to heal one of my figs for 11 HP, and of course I chose Supergirl, leading us to our second battle against a Robo Paralegal, who on his team had a level 20 Rose Wilson and a level 20 Batman. And again, I brought in Supergirl and Lady Legacy alongside an 80 Cyborg for a very specific reason. And then I also chose a Pink Lantern battery, also for basically the same reason as the 80 Cyborg. And that reason in question was to heal up my Supergirl, because the 80 Cyborg has this one ability which brings in the boombox guy, and that little guy over time throws up healing hearts, and if you pick him up, the character that's in play heals a little bit. And the Pink Lantern battery did the same exact thing as well. It just threw out hearts every few seconds that gave some pretty good heals. But then I started to run into a problem when Batman used his team attack, getting all of my figs down a lot. And looking at the other two figs of the opponent, you can see that they still had a pretty decent amount of health. So I was going to have to defeat this Batman before he got off another one of those attacks, trying to keep my Supergirl alive. And using the Lady Legacy's power-up ability a couple times, and then quickly switching over to Supergirl and using her middle attack, I was able to take down Batman, leaving only Rose Wilson. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of stalled her out a little bit so that I could bring in my Pink Lantern battery, allowing me to heal my Supergirl up a little bit. And then eventually, when I had a decent amount of health, I used my laser vision and finally took down Rose Wilson. And then sadly, this last tofu before the final battle gave me a revive tofu, and this didn't really do much for us as I could only revive Jessica Cruz and I didn't plan on bringing her in anyways. But anyways, it was now time to face Slade, and he only actually had one figure, which was Slade himself at level 20. So I brought in my Cyborg, Supergirl, and my Lady Legacy, which was basically my main team, and I paired it with the Hive Chip accessory. And I haven't explained it yet, but the Hive Chip accessory is basically the best one in the game. It's like a better version of the Green Lantern battery because it just gives you a constant battle bar boost. But looking back at the battle, I was constantly just spamming Lady Legacy's power up, which I got a little greedy and she got taken out, but it did allow me to get my Supergirl's attack up to 71, which then she also critted, dealing 107 damage, leaving Slade at 68 health. And even better, my Hive Chip had just charged up fully, meaning Supergirl was almost at her max potential. And then getting even luckier, Supergirl crit on her second attack as well, leaving Slade at 2 health, which then to finish it off, I used my middle attack, flying over to Slade and punching him, taking him down, which got me an insane 2,000 coins, the trophy for beating the tournament, and the Slade fig itself, bringing my collection up to 43. And then Robin says, "Slade, you're done for," which Slade responds with "until next time," and that next time is going to be very soon, and starts maniacally laughing and then flies off in a ship, which leads us to where all the Titans came in and started congratulating Robin, similarly to how they did at the end of the first game. But of course, this wasn't anywhere near the end as we still had 57 more figs to collect. And this is where I'm going to start speeding things up a little bit, as the main story is basically done, and now we just have to hunt down all the remaining figs. The first of which we got by collecting the reward for using 10 tofu in battle, and it was Robotic Brother Blood, bringing my collection up to 44. The 45th fig was Starfire, which I sent to a mission, but of course it still counts. Oh, and then we take a little stop here because future Robin appeared again, and he told us that we'd made a huge mistake and that he needs that crystal back. But before we went to get the crystal, I stopped at a shop unlocking Red X and Billy Numerous, bringing the total to 47. But then I made my way over to the park where I'd buried the crystal, and I was looking all around and I couldn't find where the crystal was. But then talking to Sticky Joanne, we found out that she had swallowed the crystal, and we had to battle her to get it back. And she had a Silky Fig alongside 2 Sticky Joe figs, which aren't really that great, so we kind of ended up decimating her. And at this point, my main team of Cyborg was at level 19, Lady Legacy was at level 17, and Supergirl had finally made it to the max level of 20. And handing the crystal back to Robin, he basically thanks us for our help and not asking any questions, but then kind of just leaves, which I'm not gonna lie, that's basically the end of that mission, as nothing else really happens after. This might have been something that appeared in a future Teeny Titans 3, but we can't really ever be sure as that never came out. But anyways, moving forward, I went to another shop, getting normal Brother Blood and Black Manta, bringing the total to 49, and then going into a different shop, I bought the basic Robin, Santa Claus, Silky, Princess Silky, and Killer Moth, bringing the total up to 54, meaning we're over halfway there. But then we head over to the movie lot because we heard that Mr. Chibi was there, and there we found him with a tournament of his own. And this tournament was named the Super Tough Tournament of Sponsorship. And tough it was because I didn't even make it halfway through the tournament and got completely decimated, which showed me that my team was nowhere near as strong as I thought it was. So we would need to come back here a little later on with a better team. And for now, I made a stop at the movie magic shop, first opening a mystery box that gave me Jon Stewart, and then I also bought Shazam, and lastly Sirius Bumblebee, bringing the total up to 57. My next unlock was in the Legion of Doom, and it was when I got to rank 5, which gave me Cheetah, bringing the total up to 58. And then I made my way over to the Super Friends shop inside of the Hall of Justice, where I bought 80s Raven and 80s Beast Boy, bringing the total to 60. Oh, and running around I saw that Wonder Woman had a side quest for me, which was battling and defeating her again. So of course I took on the challenge, and she still had the same team of Flash, Jon Stewart, and Wonder Woman, but this time they were all level 20. But of course I already knew how to play against them and was able to dwindle their health down pretty easily. I did think it was a little cursed that the Flash had on a reverse Flash skin, but anyways, defeating her, I moved on, getting my Lady Legacy to level 19 and accepting her reward of 500 coins alongside the Wonder Raven Fig, bringing the total to 61. My next stop was the Martian Manhunter, who had the Martian Manhunter's Worthiness Trials in Space Tournament, which consisted of 6 battles against Aquaman, Batgirl, Poops the Dog, Jon Stewart, Miss Martian, and finally Martian Manhunter himself. And he had the Superman and the Martian Manhunter figs, both of course at level 20. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see that I added Robin to my team, as I thought by now it was kind of acceptable to add him, and I needed good figs to try and beat Mr. Chibi's tournament. And I was a little scared of Superman because he had the potential to be good, but he was kind of the same exact thing as Jessica Cruz, and honestly very easy to take down. And then we had to go up against Martian Manhunter himself, who has similar abilities to Blue Beetle that lower the defense of my team, but since Supergirl basically can't be hit, the lowering of the defense does nothing. And Martian Manhunter didn't even have an attack that deals damage to the full team, so I was able to just cheese him with Supergirl, getting myself the trophy and awarded a Martian Manhunter fig, bringing the total to 62. Oh, and also I got Lady Legacy's third attack fully powered up, and this is a very important one because it makes it so the attack is undodgeable. And this is genuinely a near perfect move lineup of having the power up move, a very strong attack that's undodgeable, and her middle attack is very useful in certain situations because it removes positive effects from the opponent and negative effects from us. And I've mentioned that the Robin fig is considered to be one of the best, and it's basically for the same reason that I think Lady Legacy is even better, because Robin has the power up move, and then also his middle attack deals decent damage and at the same time is undodgeable. But I think that Lady Legacy is better because she has that middle attack that removes the effects, which Robin doesn't have, and he just has a third move that deals damage. Oh, and also Lady Legacy's power up move takes less battle bar energy, but I don't know, let me know if I'm missing something. And moving on, as I had 9,000 coins, I made my way back to the Super Friends shop, where I bought Bat Robin, Martian Beast Boy, Star Flash, and Green Cyborg, bringing my total to 66. I'd also found on the beach that there was something similar to the first game, where if you came back after a full day and night cycle, you could keep placing these starfish down, building a path to a different island. And since there was a specific building where you could take a nap, changing the time from night to day, I kind of just kept on using it over and over again, finally getting the last starfish down over to the island, which brought me to a new shop that contained some new figs like Aqualad and Aquaman, but he cost 8,000 and I only had 500 coins left. So I made my way out, running into this big seahorse that I challenged to battle, completely decimating it, and this actually gave me enough coins to get the Aqualad fig, making it the 67th in my collection, but I also gave it away to a mission. My next stop was back in Gotham, where I ran into Gorilla Grodd, and I'm stopping here because he has a side quest that gives us a new fig, but we do it a little later on. And instead I went far left, where first we talked to Raven, who has the side quest of us defeating her using 3 super figs, and this I could actually do right now since I had that Supergirl at level 20, and even my Robin was at a decent level 9, so challenging her to the battle, we again took her down very quickly, and winning that battle actually got us Radical Raven, bringing our collection up to 68. But then we entered this building, which happened to be the Arkham Asylum, and this was a cool little area where we first ran into Bane, and he was sad because his friends refused to participate in his tourney, so our goal was to try and get them to participate. There was also this corner of the Arkham Asylum with a locked door, and we heard a maniacal laugh from it, which of course this was the Joker, and I felt like I just had to challenge him to a battle, and he had both the Harley Quinn and the Joker fig, which didn't really stand a chance against us. And afterwards I made my way deeper into the Arkham Asylum, where I ran into Killer Croc, who told us he'd only participate in Bane's tourney if we brought him some pudding, so we'd have to find that for him. But for now I talked to Killer Moth, and we convinced him by beating him in battle, and this also completed the side quest of defeating Killer Moth, which got me Speedy, bringing my collection up to 69. And afterwards I ran into Jinx, and the way we convinced her was giving her 1,000 coins, so we kind of got robbed there. But anyways, the Arkham Asylum actually had a shop of its own, which we bought Rose Wilson from, bringing our total up to 70. And then I made my way across the Arkham Asylum, where I found the pudding for Killer Croc, and bringing it back to him, he was finally convinced to participate in Bane's tourney, and making it back to Bane, he was very happy. And this is actually sort of another side quest tourney, where our first opponent was Clock King, and the tourney itself isn't actually too difficult, so I won't really be showing the fights too much, as it was much easier than the Martian Manhunter one. So the second battle was Captain Captain Boomerang. The third battle was against Ventriloquist. The fourth battle was against Harley Quinn, which she also, just like the Joker, had the Harley Quinn and Joker figs. Again, very easy to defeat, and this led us to the last battle of the tourney against Bane himself. And he only had a maxed out Bane, which didn't really stand a chance against my Lady Legacy. In defeating him, we got the trophy and the Bane fig, bringing our collection to 71. But looking through my fig wiki, I realized that I didn't have Mammoth yet, and I'd seen him in the Arkham Asylum shop, so I bought him, bringing the collection up to 72, and making my way out of the asylum over to the falafel shop in Gotham. I bought Cyborg's head and Red Arrow, bringing my collection up to 74. My next stop was back in Metropolis, where I went into Bizarro's comics and bought Kid Flash, bringing the total to 75. We're 3/4 of the way there. Bizarro's comics also had a special Harley Quinn fig, so I also decided to buy her for 6,000, bringing the total to 76. My next stop was the Sticky Joe shop, who I bought Old School Silky from, bringing my total to 77. And then I participated in the Legion of Doom a little bit more, and once I got to level 8, getting another mystery box, it gave me Pirate Aqualad, bringing my collection up to 78. And as I continued to battle in the Legion of Doom, I got to level 15, which gave me Sinestro, bringing me up to 79. And battling in the Legion of Doom, I'd accumulated a lot of coins and had just enough to buy the Aquaman fig, bringing my total to 80. And my next stop would be Mr. Chibi's Super Tough Tournament, and this time I was much more prepared, as I had a max level Supergirl, a nearly max level Robin, a max level Lady Legacy, a max level Cyborg, a nearly max level Martian Manhunter, and a nearly max level Blue Beetle. Martian Manhunter, I'm not gonna lie, is kinda meh, but I really just like him as a character, so I put him on the team. But the rest of my figs are all pretty broken, and I won't lie, this time the tournament seemed a lot easier, as I made it past the first, second, third, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and lastly 8th battle very easily, basically keeping all of my figs intact. And yes, this tournament does have 9 total battles, and all of those opponents were just random people. But the one non-random opponent was the last one, which was Mr. Chibi, who on his team had a max level Batman, max level Mr. Chibi, and a max level Hooded Hood. But I brought in Lady Legacy, Supergirl, and Martian Manhunter, paired up with the Raven Spellbook accessory, and was basically prepared for anything. And I brought in Martian Manhunter instead of the other 3 figs, because I'd put a ton of his points into health, and he was sorta supposed to be my tank. Like if the opponent was about to have enough energy to deal an attack, I would just switch over to Martian Manhunter and he would take the attack instead of my other 2. Oh, and at this point, I'd kind of stopped abusing the Supergirl strategy, because if you remember, I mentioned that the main downfall is that it took a lot of time, and since my Lady Legacy was powerful enough, and her biggest attack guaranteed that it always hit since it was unblockable, it just made sense to use Lady Legacy instead. And eventually we took down all 3 of Mr. Chibi's figs, which after winning gave me the trophy, and this was actually the final tournament, meaning we'd beaten all of them, which now left us with only collecting the rest of the figs. And for winning this tournament, we got Batman, bringing our total to 81. And I did stop at the Legion of Doom, grinding a lot more ranks, but then as I'd gotten 9,000 coins, I'd remembered that the Bizarro comics actually had another special fig that cost 9,000, and the special fig in question was Bizarro himself, which if you remember was the most difficult one to get in the first game, as we had to get rank 50 in the Hall of Justice, but this time it was much easier, bringing our total up to 82. I also made my way back to the ice shop because there was one fig in there that I had to buy, and that was Argyle Trigon, bringing the total to 83. My next stop was back in the Wayne Manor, which actually had a shop of its own, and from here I bought Batgirl, making the total 84. Also, there was a shop named the Wayne Toys that contained Nightwing, bringing my total to 85. And something that I hadn't mentioned was that the Riddler way back had a side quest for us, which was basically different riddles that we had to solve. And the first riddle was my hair is yellow, I'm not a plane, and one of me you must obtain. So to break it down, we had hair yellow, I'm not a plane, but the most important part was where it said one of me you had to obtain, basically hinting that it was a fig that we needed to buy. And the first fig that came to mind with yellow hair was of course Supergirl, as that was basically the one that I used the most, and she actually made complete sense with the I'm not a plane thing either, because there's that old thing of it's a bird, it's a plane, no it's Superman. So I made my way over to the shop where I originally bought Supergirl, and buying her we actually got the check mark for the riddle, but this wouldn't be the end of it, as he gave us another riddle right after, and the riddle was near or far, what's the diff, I'll get the job done in a jiff. And I did kind of think about this for a little bit and couldn't really come to a solid answer, but then randomly running around I saw a purple mission star which was on top of the space cabbie guy, and then there was sort of a light bulb moment because it made complete sense that he was actually the answer, because near or far, what's the diff, I'll get you there in a jiff, it does make complete sense. The third riddle was all natural is my attire, one of me you must acquire, and there was a few figs that came to mind here, like Beast Boy, Boy, Vixen, Cheetah, but the main two that came to mind were Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy. And the closest one I remembered was in Bizarro Comics, which was Swamp Thing. And he actually made the most sense for the riddle since he literally is all natural. And buying him, we got the riddle done. The fourth riddle was once I lived a life sublime, but now I'm sleeping all the time. And this one was actually pretty easy for me because I hadn't mentioned it, but there was a side quest that we had in Gotham which involved a graveyard. So I made my way over there, and this guy here was the one that had the side quest, but it didn't seem like he was the answer. But moving up a little bit, I saw a spot glowing, and clicking on it, that spot was the answer, which left us to our fifth and final riddle, being truly a monument to the best. I'll never lose a staring contest. And this one I thought about for a little bit, but I got the answer pretty quickly. And the answer was basically in the first line where it says truly a monument to the best. And there's really only like one main monument that I remembered, and it was the Superman one in the middle of Metropolis. And that was actually the final riddle, meaning we'd solved all of the Riddler's riddles, and our reward for it was the Riddler Fig himself, bringing our total to 86. Oh, and maybe you remember the Cyborg mission where we had to defeat him using only one Fig, and I went into it with my Lady Legacy, and it ended up being very easy as she was max level. And completing the side quest, I got Radical Cyborg, bringing the total to 87. There was also a side quest with Beast Boy where we had to defeat him using only Beast Boy Figs, and this got me Radical Beast Boy, bringing my total to 88. The next two are pretty interesting because you have to go into Teeny Titans 1, and pressing a button, it actually unlocks two different figs in Teeny Titans 2 for you. The first of which is the Hooded Hood, and the second one is of course Mr. Chibi. But this was also weird because even though it brought my total to 90, it brought the complete total of the game to 102 instead of 100, meaning we didn't really make any progress there. But the main reason I unlocked them was because I needed Mr. Chibi for a glitch later on, and the glitch with Mr. Chibi is actually pretty insane. But either way, I also battled Starfire, beating her with using only Silky Figs, which got me Radical Starfire, bringing my total to 91. But then I'm gonna take a little stop at this random battle because even though I was unlocking all these figs, I was at the same time trying to level up my 80s Beast Boy and my Mr. Chibi to max level, which this battle got my 80s Beast Boy to level 20. And 80s Beast Boy is important for the other glitch, and you'll see that very soon. But I actually made my way over to the Movie Magic Shop where I bought a golden fig box, and out of it I got Bwana Beast, bringing my total to 92. And Bwana Beast is actually one of the figs that is completely RNG, and you have to get them from the golden boxes, so this was pretty lucky. But there's a few more figs that we get just from golden boxes, and you'll see those later on. As for now, after a battle, I'd gotten my Mr. Chibi also to max level, and then I headed over to Gorilla Grodd, and we had to defeat him using only beastly figs. And this one was actually pretty tough since he had some pretty high level figs, and I actually had to train some of my figs for this battle. And I'd gotten my 80s Beast Boy to level 20, but I'd also gotten my Aquaman to level 14. And even with this team, I was able to take down two of the figs, but then my 80s Beast Boy and my Aquaman ended up dying to Gorilla Grodd, leaving only my level 5 Mammoth against the level 20 Gorilla Grodd. And at this point I thought I was cooked, but this was when you see the true power of the Hive Chip accessory, because the Mammoth's first attack deals a little bit of damage, but it also stuns the opponent, and if you combo it with the Hive Chip accessory, which gives you that battle bar boost, you can constantly just keep on using that first attack, stunning the opponent just long enough for your next attack to be recharged. And just like that, I slowly dwindled Gorilla Grodd's health down, and then finished it off with one final big boulder attack, somehow defeating the level 20 Gorilla Grodd with my level 5 Mammoth. And my reward for this was the Gorilla Grodd Fig, bringing the total up to 93. Also, as I made my way back to the Legion of Doom, it was now time to show y'all the first glitch. And before I do it, I want to give a quick shout out to this channel, because their channel was where I found both of the glitches I use in the game. And this first glitch involves you using 80s Beast Boy, and he has to be one of the left or the right characters, and as soon as your character spawn in and the timer goes down and the game says go, you have to tap on the bottom left, switching over to 80s Beast Boy quickly and spamming his tofu attack, which gives you this weird animation where you can just keep on spamming that attack over and over again, because normally when you're using attack your battle bar stops, but since you switch over and just spam the attack, if for some reason glitches out the battle bar and it keeps charging, and each time you use the attack for some reason it's doubled. So at this point, each time I was using the tofu, it was giving me a ton of tofu and a bunch of power-ups, and those power-ups were because I had the tofu powered up, similarly to how the Cyborg's battery also gives you extra power. And this was basically like a heavily boosted version of the Lady Legacy's power-up move. And then what you do here, after getting a bunch of power-ups, you would switch over to Beast Boy's gorilla form and then use his barrel attack, which deals damage to the entire rest of the team. And most of the time you'll hit all three, but once in a while the character will dodge, but then you just switch over to Lady Legacy and quickly finish them off. And this glitch in particular saved me a bunch of time because it made my battles, which usually take 3 minutes each in the Legion of Doom, go all the way down to about a minute or a minute 30, basically doubling my speed. And that mattered a lot because by the time I actually got to rank 50 in the Legion of Doom, it had taken me about 7 hours. And without the glitch, it probably would have taken me double or maybe nearly even triple that time. So again, thank you to that channel for existing because I might have gone crazy just battling over and over again here. And even though I had the glitch, I actually tried to figure out other strategies that could make this process faster, one of which was starting a completely new save file. Of course, I didn't delete that first one because that's still the one I'd be using, but this one was mainly so I could unlock the Legion of Doom on it. Oh, and I did choose Starfire this time, and she did have the funny voice lines that I'd imagined, but of course that's not the point. And eventually, after I made it back from Metropolis like I did the first time, the Legion of Doom appeared, and my strategy here was using both of my games at the same time and sending friend requests to both of the other accounts, and then just farming my second account with my first account. But sadly, the friend request system did not work at all. I even tried to battle online at the same time, and that didn't work either. So I did kind of waste an hour of my time here grinding out that second account, but it was a good experiment. And if you're going for that 100%, don't try to do this as it doesn't work at all. But either ways, I switched back just to my normal account and normally got to level 25 in the Legion of Doom, getting a golden booster box, which got me Killer Croc, bringing my total to 94. Oh, and battling in the Legion of Doom, I was getting a ton of coins, so I'd periodically make my way over to the Movie Magic shop in order to get the golden booster packs. And this time I opened one and ended up getting Dark Side from it, bringing my total up to 95. And this was also another RNG one. And I'm skipping ahead here like 4 hours, but I eventually made it to rank 45, which got me a random golden booster pack. And this one specifically got me Joker, bringing my total to 96. And this one was actually pretty cool because a Joker you can buy, but it costs 10,000 coins. So that did just save me 10,000 coins. But more importantly, moving forward, we finally made it to this battle right here. And this battle was important because one, we used the glitch and very satisfyingly defeated all 3 figs at once. And this was the last battle I needed to do in the Legion of Doom as I got to rank 50 right after it. Finally getting myself the Lex Luthor exclusive fig that's only available in the Legion of Doom, or golden Easter eggs from the Riddler shop, but of course we couldn't get those. And this brought my total up to 97 out of 102, meaning we had 5 more left, 3 of which were obtainable normally and 2 of them were RNG. And I never mentioned it, but if you remember, Martian Manhunter wanted us to prove our worthiness to him, and then he said we'd get to go into his exclusive collection, but we never actually got that because there was actually a second step to that worthiness after the tournament. And that second step was having 100 total figs in our collection. And this wasn't 100 different types of figs. You could actually have like 50 robins if you wanted to. And that's exactly what I did, clearing out the very cheap shops, just completely buying them out, because if you look in the top right, we had almost 40,000 coins, all accumulated from battling in the Legion of Doom. And eventually, after buying a ton of figs, I left the store and immediately got a green message. And it was one from Martian Manhunter saying that we'd proved our worthiness and we could go see his collection. So I quickly made my way over there, and he wasn't standing at the door this time. And talking to him, we saw that in his collection he had Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And of course, I immediately bought Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, bringing my total up to a big 100. Now only leaving 2 more figs, which were the completely RNG ones. And I thought that I could maybe get lucky with this one golden box from the Martian Manhunter shop, but I only got Harley Quinn, which we already had. And this is actually where the Mr. Chibi glitch comes in very handy. And again, shout out to that channel because I found this glitch from them. And the Mr. Chibi glitch works basically the same way as the 80s Beast Boy one does, but you have to have Lex Luthor and the Hooded Hood on your team because Lex Luthor has a very long switching animation, which is needed to glitch out the battle bar with Mr. Chibi. And Mr. Chibi is also needed because he has this attack that after it deals damage, it gives you coins. And just like the 80s Beast Boy glitch, every time you use it, it basically doubles. In this specific battle, I didn't get an insane amount of coins, but my total did go from 4,000 to 6,000, which meant that I'd gotten 2,000 coins from that one battle. But of course, this glitch can be a lot more broken, and we find that out in this one random battle where I got the glitch to work, and I had about 9,000 coins at the beginning, and as I kept spamming, I got to 64,000 in about 2 minutes. Oh, and you might have noticed that even though the figs are dead, the battle just keeps on going and going, and that's a part of the glitch, and I don't really know why or how that happens, but it just works. But you have to make sure that you don't allow the figs attack animation to go through fully, because if it goes through fully, the game actually registers the figs as dead, and it ends the battle there. But eventually, after another 2 minutes, I'd gotten my coin total up to 330,000 and decided that this would actually be enough coins, because the RNG can be pretty brutal, but it wasn't going to be brutal enough to where I'd need to spend 330,000 coins. And I'm not even lying, after spending like 12,000 coins, I got Batman Beyond, making my total 101 out of 102, and also meaning we had one more fig left to complete the entire game. And making my way back to the nap time area, I needed to go to sleep, making it night and then daytime again, because doing this resets the shop, meaning all the gold boxes would come back into the movie magic shop. And buying all 4 that were in the shop again, we opened the first one and got Batman Beyond again. We opened the second one and got Martian Beast Boy, but then as the third one was about to come up, we got this achievement at the very top saying collect every figure, and out of the box we got the Flash, completing our full collection of 102 out of 102, meaning we'd gotten all of the different tournament trophies, which included 9 in total. We'd completed the full Fig Wiki, and of course, like you already saw, we defeated our arch nemesis Slade, meaning we're finally done with the game. And this is basically where the video comes to an end. And I'm not gonna lie, this was probably one of my favorite videos to record ever, besides of course the Legion of Doom part. But besides that, it was very fun. And this actually won't be the last Teeny Titans video you see on my channel, because I have a ton of other ideas brainstormed, so look out for those in the future. And let me know what you thought about the game. Did you think it was better than the first one? I definitely did, but honestly I thought both of them were amazing. But now I'm gonna stop yapping, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye bye.